Alan, it looks like Australia managed to work out exactly what the game plan required to beat Ireland is and implemented it from the get-go. They swallowed up whatever clever moves we had, they beat us to the breakdown, and generally they did a number on us.
Yeah, there was a few occasions where Ireland hit up the middle and they went to come back on the blind side, and they were just waiting. Hooper was waiting at one stage. I think Carbery came out of the line, hit Conor Murray with one of those little loop plays around from Jordy Murphy. So they numbered up really well. But look, all last week, Ger, since I got here, the talk was of the pressure on Michael Cheika, the pressure on the Australia, how they had to react. Rugby is dwindling a little bit here. The public are not getting behind the team. So I think there was a massive pressure. And I think given what the type of fellow Michael Cheika is, he wanted aggression, work rate, enthusiasm, and he wanted to rough the Irish up a little bit and stop them playing. And by and large, they did that. I think, look, Joe Schmidt talks about skinny margins, and it's one of the headlines on the paper here this morning about those small, skinny margins, if you like. But I think ultimately, what won the game for Australia was their ability to be more aggressive. Were Ireland tired is another question. I think emotionally maybe they weren't up for this as much as maybe Australia were. Their desperation to win from the Australians, given that pressure, and they got it right. Look, they got that aggression right. They got off the line. We chatted to the referee, Mark Robson and myself. We're doing the game for Sky, and we chatted to the referee on Saturday morning. And one of the things Michael Cheika had brought up with him was he wanted could his team stand 2-3 yards behind the gain line, because they wanted to sprint off the line. Now that's a very risky kind of business, because if you don't get it right, you'll be pinged for being offside. But they were sprinting off the line, and of course a lot of the headlines then this morning and after the game are Pocock and Hooper, the effect they had on the game. So physically, Australia ruffled Ireland up a little bit. I think the changes maybe affected a little bit of cohesion in the Irish team. But look, 14 minutes left in the game, we were still a point up. If Standard scored to try, it could have been different. But ultimately, I think the best team won. Yeah,
I'll talk to you a bit more about Michael Cheika in a minute. But first I want to hear from him, because actually you spoke to him in the immediate aftermath of the game. Let's have a listen.
Michael, you have a beaming smile on your face. It's the first win in the start of it's going to be an attritional series. Question marks about maybe your front five. How pleased are you the way they stepped up tonight, and the forwards that came off the bench as well?
Yeah, I think that's a big work on. It's always been a work on for us, probably since 2014, when we were getting smashed up in scrums. And we've worked hard on it. Simon's come in, Simon Raului. That's even better because it's a new coach. First week he's really had a test match to deal with, and forwards have responded really well. We were still missing Alan Alatoa as well today, so we've got some depth there. And our young hookers, I thought, without much experience, did well against what is a great pack. I suppose the expectation is now that Ireland will react to that and they'll come out steaming in round two, and we've got to improve in that area for sure.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things strike me about this. Like Joe Schmidt, his video analysis sessions are always legendarily hard on the players. Someone's going to be having a chat with him and saying he got stuff wrong into that game, right?
Yeah, we went to the team hotel today. There was a press briefing there, and I think there was a pretty blunt analysis meeting this morning. That's a little whisper we got that they went through a lot of stuff, like all coaches do, like all teams do, and even if they win, he's still going through the finer details. So I'm sure there was a lot of small margins. Ultimately, I'm not sure if you can see this, but can you read the headline on that?
Handed to King David.
Yeah, so that's Pocock, and that was Sunday's paper. And here's another one of Pocock.
Looking good with the shirt off there. One? Yeah, Pocock always ahead of the game in his comeback.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that was
wrong
that was probably the key for him. Sorry, the video's just gone here. 1 sec.
Yeah, no
apologies. Yeah, that was the key for them, their breakdown work and the effect they had. So I'm sure in that video analysis meeting this morning, the big kind of talking points would have been the 21 turnovers Ireland had, and Pocock and Hooper were central to a lot of that. Usually, Ger, we see this team, when Ireland are successful, they can build 15, 20, 25 phases, really exhaust teams. And the most they probably got to the other night were 6, 7, 8 phases. So it was easier for Australia then to be more enthusiastic getting off the line, more aggressive in the one-on-one tackle. So I think that's a real area this week, and someone like Levy, I think he'll probably come back into the side. Tadhg might even come into the side to counteract them. But they've got to be a lot more physical and aggressive. And some of the changes maybe affected that situation. But I've been there myself, and any ex-player will tell you when you're out in the field, sometimes, look, they're at home. The Australians play well at Suncorp. All the pressure, the intensity that they brought to the game, caught Ireland a little bit on the hop. And there was very, I agree with Joe Schmidt. There was small margins. If Stander scores a try, if Joey Carbery kicks the penalty, a little bit of game management as well. I think we overplayed in our own half, and Folau was outstanding. Their kicking game was brilliant. They kicked the ball 26 times. We kicked it 22 times. So, their aerial bombardment of our back three worked really well, and Folau was outstanding as well.
What was your impression of Joey Carbery's performance, Alan? I mean, there's been some talk over the last couple of days that he didn't do anything wrong, but at the same time, you miss a lot defensively, especially from open play when it comes to Johnny Sexton.
Yeah, he didn't miss any tackles, or people didn't run out over him. I thought he was solid. That's kind of a word that's been bandied around after the game. I think ultimately it's up front. I think as a unit, the 8 forwards didn't impose themselves on the Australians. So a lot of the ball he was getting, he was under massive pressure. He got hit late by Hooper at one stage when he passed the ball. So they were trying to rough him up. So I thought he coped very well. Andy Dunn is talking there. I listened to him about maybe being a little bit deeper. But it's tricky when you're in a game like that. If Sexton starts the game, they're going to be targeting him as well. So I think he did well overall. Ideally, his forwards would have been a bit more dominant, and he could have expressed himself a little bit better.
Yeah. How many? So we're reading the papers and kind of trying to read the runes. They're saying there's going to be a raft of changes that for the second test we'll see Sexton come in. Does Murray stay, or is this an opportunity for them to try somebody else at scrum half to see what would happen if Conor Murray goes down? Or because we're now down a test, you put out what you think is your best chance of winning, so your first choice front row, add Tadhg. I saw Gavin Cummins keep suggesting that maybe he comes into the back row, so you've got him and Levy to try and counteract the effect of the two groundhogs in Australia. What do you expect to happen now, kind of having been listening to that press briefing this morning and hearing the rumours?
I expect Ireland to pick the strongest team this week. It sounds quite simple and broad, if you like, that he's going to pick a team to do a job this week. He's going to put massive pressure on whoever is selected to be really physical from the get-go, get in the Australians' faces. They're very dangerous out wide. So I think, Healy and Furlong will come back into the side. Will Devon Toner come in? Will Tadhg come in? I'm not sure. I think they could. One or the other will definitely be on the bench, or maybe the two of them. One of them could start. I think Levy, if he's fit, will start. He's got to come back into the side and really go after Pocock and Hooper and be really physical. But I think as a unit, whatever 8 they select, I think there's going to be the pressure now is on Ireland this week. I think he'll start Conor Murray. He's going to pick his strongest possible team. There's no room for any sort of manoeuvring here. They've got to win this test and bring it to Sydney. We saw Kieran Marmion start against England last year, and he played very well. So I don't think there's as much concern about scrum half if Conor Murray gets injured. The reason Carbery started was obviously just to see how he could cope there in that pressurised environment. But ultimately, I think it'll be the strongest possible team.
The strongest possible team includes Gary Ringrose, right? I don't think the Aki...
It has to on, yeah.
Like, what was your view of the Aki Henshaw performance the last day? Was it almost kind of the final nail in a coffin to a certain extent, or is that going way too far on the basis of one game?
I think it's going too far a little bit. I understand where you're coming from. They looked rusty. Aki did some good things earlier in the game. Henshaw, uncharacteristically, he does make really good reads in defence. He shot out of the line a couple of times. He missed a tackle. I think it was Beale and Corabetti at one stage kind of bounced off him, and they get that bit of width. They nearly scored. Jacob Stockwell saves a certain try. So I think it was a bit of rustiness. Those guys haven't played in a number of weeks, so a bit of match fitness as well and a little bit of concentration. So that's something Andy Farrell is going to be working on. They look to expose us a little bit in the wider channels, so they've got to get that right this week. So I think Ringrose has got to come back into the side. Every time I see him, I walk past him again today. I think he's getting bigger. He's looking more mature. He's looking like a real man, if you like. That babyish look has gone off him. So I think he's an outstanding attacking forward. Defensively, he's very good as well. So I think Henshaw may move to 12 and Ringrose, but Ringrose is definitely going to come into the team. I think Andrew Conway could come into the team as well. Keith Earls is doing the HIA return to play protocols, but I think Conway, even if Earls is fit, he could come in for Stockdale. I think Conway may come into that team as well.
Yeah, like, not to labour the point, but again, it looks like the HIA was called a minute or two too late. And, that's not a good look for rugby when they keep banging on about how great they are compared to other sports, when instances like that, so clear and the whole world can see it, aren't actually picked up on at the time. But not to go on too much about that, but just generally that point that in the Six Nations, stuff like us not always being perfect. So Stander, for example, not getting over the line or not finding a pass when that break happens in the second half. The fact that it is Keith Earls who finds himself in that situation when clearly, he has to go off for HIA immediately afterwards, where there's an opportunity for him to go one-on-one. In the Six Nations, either that was coming off for us, or if it didn't come off, we knew we were going to get another chance. At the very elite level, against, now it turns out, all the tri-nations in the Southern Hemisphere, we're not going to have that luxury. We have to be perfect for 87, 88, 89 minutes if we're going to beat them.
Yeah, look, I think Australia ranked 4th in the world going into this game, and people expected us to win. I expected us to win. I heard Drico on Friday saying, he expected, he fancied Australia for this one. When you name out the team and you look at their players, I think they've outstanding, talented players, and I think, like Cheika said, the challenge for them is trying to build a forward pack and get some depth. They're guys that came off the bench. They were outstanding. Tupou, the tight head who came on, was brilliant. Robertson, Latu, the hooker. So they brought on 3 front rows who were outstanding. And they made a real impact. But there was a sense of energy about Australia on Saturday night that I just had that feeling, even doing commentary, that even we had to work kind of doubly hard to make line breaks or to get kind of yards, bar the Stander one, which was he broke free, completely free. I think there was another opportunity where Aki, we had numbers at one stage, just to start the second half. If he gave the pass, we could have scored. We certainly had numbers. So, look, I think I spoke to Keith Earls Saturday night, and he was fine. He said he wasn't concussed. Obviously, there's blood in his ear and stuff like that, and he went off. I think the Irish management made the decision to take him off. But yeah, you've got to get everything right in these big games, Ger, and we didn't the other night. I don't think there's any cause for panic. This team has won 12 matches in the trot. They're an outstanding team. They just were a little bit off on Saturday night, and Australia were that bit more enthusiastic. I genuinely believe that Ireland will train really well this week. They'll have that bit of edge, that bit of an aggression, that bit of anger in them to really go after Australia. And looking at the papers, I met the Australians going through the airport yesterday. They're beaming. There's a real sense of pressure kind of off them now. I know they're all talking about not underestimating Ireland, but I really expect a reaction from this Irish team. And, have your full strength team out now on Saturday and take them on and try and level the series.
Yeah, let's just see what happens. One quick tweet to bring you. Podge Johnson says, "Good man, Quinny, keeping the room tidy." I'd say you haven't been there too long, have you?
Can you see all the room? It's wrecked. There's clothes everywhere. We got into Melbourne last night, and it's going to be. Look, I'm looking forward to the week. It's I've been jet lagged for the last few days since I landed in Brisbane, but we got to Melbourne last night, and it was good to see the team today walking around the hotel, and they're hurting after that loss. James Ryan has lost his first professional game. That's devastating. It's disappointing, but he was outstanding the other night. I'm sure you agree with that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And none of the Australians knew anything about him. It's amazing. We got her down last week. I was talking about Joey Carbery, James Ryan, Andrew Porter, Levy. They didn't really know a whole lot about them. Falau says at the start of the week, I don't really know much about Ireland. Well, they don't. And it's a little bit disrespectful. But look, I think they'll certainly pay a lot of attention to the possibility of changes this week, and it should be a great week.
Bring it on, Quinny. Great stuff. Enjoy. Thanks a million.